So, welcome everyone. It's good to see you. Now, this week's topic is about training or conditioning ourself, our sense of personality, our sense of me or mine. And so today's topic is choosing a self skillfully. And it's pretty similar to last week's topic, actually, of directing our attention skillfully. It all starts with that. Becoming aware of how we use our attention, or where our attention is at the beginning of mindfulness practice, so you clearly understand what is it that's currently happening, or what am I currently doing. So it's always a good idea to kind of start with that question, what am I doing right now? This is also one of the suggestions of the Buddha himself. He has us ask ourselves frequently, what am I doing right now? What are you doing mentally? What are you doing with your thoughts right now? What are you doing verbally? How do you express yourself when around other people? And what are you doing physically? How do you act? Your gestures, your mimics, and the steps that you take in life, the actions that you take in life. So even though very often I stress that it's very important to be present, to rest in a state of just being here, it's equally as important to act skillfully. And our actions, they come from a self. They come from our sense of self, which is conditioned. It's something that we have learned since the beginning of our life. Who you are right now is a product of all the countless moments of your past. The books you've read, the shows you've watched, and most importantly, the people you associate yourself with, who you hang out with. All this is contributing to your sense of self. Excuse me. And so we're continuously, basically developing our sense of self. It's always developing. Right now it's developing. You're receiving new information right now. I'm talking about things. Also, my sense of self is developing as I go along. So is yours. And the more information we consume, the more things we do, the more we hang out with different kind of people, the more we change all the time. But the past selves that you have developed and cultivated doesn't mean that they just disappear. Sometimes they just go to sleep for a little while until there's another opportunity for them to wake up and play their role. Right? We all know that. Sometimes you think like, okay, I'm over the hill, I'm done with that, and then like a month later it's just the same old trouble, the same problem again, and you thought you were over it. So it's basically like that. Our sense of self is very fragile, can easily be conditioned. That means really people or circumstances can easily control who you are. Sometimes it's really just enough for someone to look at you the wrong way, isn't it? And your whole mind goes up in flames. Maybe for the rest of the day even. Sometimes just one single thought that you suddenly have, or one single question that you're asked, can throw you into a pit of doubt for months. Doubting yourself, doubting people around you, doubting what you do, right? And you've been so certain. But just a tiny thing happening and something else manifests, a different sense of self manifests. So our sense of self is very fragile, can easily change, easily be conditioned. That's because it's subject to the law of causality, cause and result. If you put in a certain cause, and that cause comes to fruition, then it turns into a result, which in itself is the next cause, turning into another result. And so that's pretty endless. Cause and result actually are synonyms. They're the same, different word for the same thing. Whatever is a cause necessarily is a result. Whatever is a result necessarily is a cause. That indicates a certain direction, doesn't it? Every time, for example, when you're angry, you're in that sense of angry me, that angry me, then that's the direction, and it creates further causes, which then in the future unfold into more moments of anger. So if you ever ask yourself, why is it that I'm scared? Why is it that I'm angry? Well, the answer is simple, because you have been angry before. Because you have had fear before. So a past moment of fear leads to more moments of fear. You can think of it a little bit like a seed. You have an apple tree, right? Apples grow on it, and each apple contains a certain amount of seeds. Each seed has the full potential for another apple tree, doesn't it? And a whole tree can grow out of one little seed. They're tiny little seeds, but they carry a huge potential. They carry potential not only for an apple tree, but for more apples, with more seeds in them, with more potential for more trees. Actions are just like that. Every thought is like that. Every emotion that you feel is like that. Everything you do is like that. And it quickly gets very complex and very deep. That's why life very often appears like a random thing. Why is this happening to me? Because we just don't understand how profound this web of causality actually is. Like, where do your experiences originate? Where do they really come from? Why am I that person that I feel that I am? Well, we can simply just say, because there's a cause for that. Otherwise, it wouldn't be there. Whatever you are experiencing has its cause. And that's good news, because it means that you can influence or that you can cause certain experiences. It means that the responsibility of whether you're leading a happy or unhappy life is in your hands. And it starts with who you think you are. And that goes very deep as well. There's many layers to it. There is a very conscious me, okay, I'm this and that type of person. And then there is many layers of subconscious me's or sense of selves underneath that. That just, they all run their show. Like you all have a smartphone, right? And you know that inside of your smartphone there are background tasks running. Like your email client is fetching emails, right? It's always checking every 5 minutes, are there new mails? And if there's new mails, then it goes ping and you can see the message. Please check in your email client, you have a new message. And that requires a task to run in the background. It's not visible to you. But the phone is doing its thing in the background. It consumes battery power, doesn't it? It consumes energy. And our mind is pretty much the same. There's many, many, many background tasks running right now. Many things going on. It's not just only that little conscious me that sits here in the room right now, but there's many things going on. Many different feelings, thoughts, conditions in the mind, conditions in the body, each influencing one another. It's super, super complex, just as complex as the universe itself. If you look into the macrocosm, how vast it is, and if you look into the microcosm, how equally vast it is, and how complex everything is, how it all relates to one another. It's just mind-blowing. It's an amazing thing to study. And it's, by the way, just a nice thing really to allow your mind to be blown every now and then, to get out of the idea that I know my stuff. And just see how deep actually things are. Start to question things again. To open our eyes, really, to get out of the sleep of thinking. The sleep of trying to get somewhere else, or seeking happiness elsewhere. Because it's in your hands. You're either happy now or you're not. But your happiness is not in 10 minutes. It's not distant from you. You're either making a conscious choice of making happiness a priority, and then you actually work on that consistently, or you don't, and then just life is just as random as it's always been. Like things appear as if they were happening to you, including your thoughts, your emotions, and your internal experiences very much look like, oh, it's stuff happening to me. Many meditators, they say that. They sit down, they do their meditation, and then after the meditation say, oh, distraction has been happening to me, or thinking has been happening to me. More or less, that's the feeling, isn't it? I've been attacked by thoughts. I wanted to do my meditation really harmless. I just wanted to relax a little bit, but I've been attacked by my thoughts the whole session long. I couldn't focus. My thoughts wouldn't let me focus. Right? It's the fault of my thoughts. But it's not. Fortunately not. Because we would all be helplessly lost if it was up to our thoughts. It's not. It's up to your attention. Where is your attention? That's what you feed, isn't it? If your attention is dwelling with your thoughts, that's what you feed. And some people say, ooh, I love my thoughts. Oh, that's an interesting thought. And then they follow that thought along the line and go deeper into it and deeper and deeper. You'll know how that's like. And on the other hand, in some meditators, they sit down and they start fighting with their thoughts. In my opinion, that's both the same thing. If you're following your thoughts or you're fighting with your thoughts, in both instances, you feed your thoughts. How do you feed your thoughts? With attention. So the first thing that you learn in meditation practice is then to divert your attention, to shift it away from thoughts. And many people misunderstand that point. They think, oh, thoughts are bad. I must battle them out of my mind. It doesn't work. Many teachers say that again and again. Thoughts are not something that you need to get rid of. But we need to become skillful in the way that we direct our attention. Like in a practical life situation, you could direct your attention to the problem and complain about it all day long, or you can direct your attention to the solution and fix the problem. Those people who divert their attention to solutions, they just simply move on. Now, some people, they get stuck in their past. Maybe you just lost your job, your boss fired you. Now, do you get stuck there and complain about the boss that fired you for the next 6 months? Paralyzing yourself. Getting stuck in the past. Reliving the old me. Day in, day out, day in, day out. Or do you decide to move on and take it in your hands and take the responsibility in your hands to create and cultivate a life that is different, that is better? There's many ways of how you could perceive this, having been fired, for example. There's an infinite way of how you could perceive this. Are you aware of that power? Do you know that it's up to you how you perceive life? No matter what happens to you, leave that alone for a moment. Doesn't matter what happens to you. What matters, or what you can do something about, is how you perceive what happens to you. But in order to do something about this, it means you have to have mindfulness. You have to become aware. Whoop, that's how I perceive that. And that's the function of a self. That's what a me does. It's a belief system. There's a whole lot of beliefs in a self. There's a whole lot of thoughts, a whole lot of emotions and feelings. Then there's the body, and all mixed together creates that sense of me. That's me, I'm Tobi. And now I have the chance, the option, to become aware of what's going on within that me right now. Thus, I can determine my direction. So, okay, where am I heading right now? What's my direction? Another way to ask, as the Buddha suggests, is what am I doing right now? Another way to put it is, who am I right now? Who am I here as right now? Is it the angry Tobi that's here right now? Is it the happy Tobi that's here right now? Is it the grateful Tobi that's here right now? Is it the complaining Tobi that's here right now? And in each case, I have a specific direction. If the complaining Tobi is active, then that's my direction. That's what I cause. In that moment that I complain, I'm like a farmer throwing seeds into the field. As I go along, as long as it takes that I'm complaining, I'm throwing seeds. Now, if I would just only know what seeds I throw, would I stop or not? I would immediately stop, because I don't want to harvest that crap. It's weed, isn't it? I'm not actually sowing medicinal plants or anything that could be useful in my garden. Maybe beautiful, maybe medicinal herbs. But I'm just kind of sowing weeds at the moment. Stuff that I don't want in my garden. How can I do that? Answer is simple. Because I'm not mindful. Because I'm doing what I did. It's habit. It's just habit. The brain, the body is a creature of habit. Our mind is a creature of habit. We do mostly what we did. We think mostly what we thought. We feel mostly what we felt. It's very hard to get outside of our own little box of experience and shift our perception around. Very difficult. It requires a whole lot of mindfulness. We need to know ourselves very well. Fortunately, that can be trained. Now, if your happiness is important to you, why not train it? Why not cultivate it? Why not invest time in it? Instead, very often we invest much more time in secondary things. Take money, for instance. We invest a lot of time in making money. It's very important for us. Why do we do that? So that we can be happy later when we get the money. So the idea is that money is something, if you add that onto you, happiness comes with it. The more you have, the idea, the happier you must be. But is that really true? Is that really something that's true? How about food? Is it the case that the more of your favorite food you eat, the happier you get? Well, put it to the test. Is it about stuff? Is it about people? The more the happier? Not really, right? We all know that. Happiness is not in things. Happiness is inside of you. And so as long as we keep investing a lot of time into things, we kind of always create that distance between me and happiness, which is an illusionary distance. As if happiness was out there and you just only need to go and grab it and get it and put it in your pockets, and then there you have it for the rest of your life. It's very simplistic, almost like a cartoony way of thinking about life. Like, if I do just everything right, I'll be happy ever after. But it's not like that. It's not so much about accumulating anything. It's more about what you do right now. And if you do the right thing right now, happiness is the result right now. And then if you stay on track, if the personality stays in that particular frequency, if you will, you keep cultivating along that path, then what you sow is actually something that will lead to a nice garden and further useful seeds. So at the moment, we're all sowing seeds, all of us. What seed are you sowing right now? Is it doubt, confusion, happiness, joy, gratitude, kindness, understanding, forgiveness, anger, impatience. What's going on inside of you right now? That requires sincerity to see clearly, right? Oh, right now I'm tense, maybe, or I'm happy, I'm relaxed and open. What's your direction right now? And do you take responsibility there? Maybe I say things that you disagree with and makes you feel uncomfortable. Are you feeling uncomfortable because of me? Or are you feeling uncomfortable because you don't know how to make yourself comfortable? Right? It's easy to point finger. It's easy to say, oh, I'm uncomfortable because of Tobi saying the wrong things. No, we're uncomfortable because we just don't know how to turn off the discomfort. We just don't know how to make ourselves comfortable. So the comfort and the discomfort is in other people's hands all around you. They can control you like a puppet on a string. They go left, you have to dance left. They go right, you have to dance right. You hear the right things, you're happy. You hear the wrong things, you're unhappy. You see the right stuff, you're happy. You see the wrong stuff, you're unhappy. The whole world is pulling your strings. Do you still think you're free? If you were truly free, advertising would make no sense. Nobody would invest in advertising. If people could not be conditioned, if your will, your wish, the way you feel could not be conditioned, nobody would invest money into these businesses. But your will and your sense of self can be conditioned, so people invest a lot of money in this. You have that sexy lady holding the newest iPhone. How do they get together? Why the sexy lady holding the iPhone? There's a reason behind it. It works on a subconscious level. Somebody investing a lot of money for you to feel like, I really need this iPhone. But there's a lot of other stuff going on subconsciously that we don't know. That is subconscious. The way it's placed, the way it's polished, where she holds the iPhone. It's all thought through so that you make the right decision now. And we are bombarded by that stuff, day in, day out, day in, day out. And then we start to feel like, I'm unhappy, I don't know why I'm unhappy, but how do I get rid of this unhappiness? And all these thoughts is stuff that we have learned to think. How do I get rid of this? Or maybe I should learn some meditation. You've picked that up somewhere. Let me check out meditation class. So you Google meditation class, you come here. You hear about meditation, you think different things now. You go back out of the meditation. How do I create more mindfulness, you think? And all that is conditioned into you all the time. Every single day, day in, day out. Every single thought you have does not come from yourself. That's a big wake-up slap in the face. Every feeling you have does not come from yourself. It is conditioned by other things, which are conditioned by other things, which in turn are conditioned by other things, which in turn are conditioned by other things, etc. It's pretty profound. And then we get this one feeling and we think, oh yeah, that's who I am. And then it doesn't last, and our sense of self shatters with it. We try to grasp onto another feeling, and it doesn't last either. And then that thought, maybe I can identify with that thought, or that perception, that political view, that opinion. And we grab onto things that don't last. And we don't find ourselves. we only find a lot of stuff that we usually identify with. And so are you a lot of that stuff that goes through your head day in and out? Are you that stuff? Are you the voice that talks in your head the whole day long? Is that you? Is that who you are? The answer is simple. No. It's not who you are. It's just a voice in your head. Like a recording, the recorded thing on the tape, right? You still remember tapes? Cassette tapes? Like the recording on the tape is not the tape. Does that make sense? It's a recording on the tape. Right? So the stuff that goes through your head is not who you are. The things you feel is not who you are. That's just stuff that goes on, like a lot of stuff in the universe that goes on. If you hold on to any of that stuff and think that this is who I am, that's not entirely true. Maybe temporarily you might have that sense of, yeah, that's me. But ultimately, no. It's just stuff passing through. So on the spiritual path, we can say we're ultimately looking for something that is more reliable inside. A more genuine center, a true sense of self, you can say. Something that can actually trust in, something that doesn't just change all the time. Something that is reliably happy and reliable free from stress. Right? And for that we have to learn to go beyond these limited little feelings that you have learned to identify with throughout your lifetime, that you consider to be you. But before you can go out of that drama, of the many roles that we play, you have to learn to play skillful roles first. That's why the topic of today's talk is choosing a self skillfully. Yourself is like a car, it's like a boat. It gets you to the island. It gets you beyond itself. It gets you to something that is much deeper than just a little role. Something more authentic. Right? But it still gets you there. So the way we live our life, what we do, what we think, what we say, is very important. You could also say the roles that we're playing right now are very important. And fortunately, they are just roles. So you have a choice to make. Which kind of role will I play today? Because it's not really limited to the role that you have been playing so far. They're not really the truth. It's just stuff you have learned from your past. It's not really who you are. You can therefore choose yourself and you can condition it. You can decide who you want to be. Redefine yourself. How would you like to feel in your life? What kind of thoughts would you like to have, predominantly? So you can just pick and choose. That means you would have to be very clear about your goals. That means you need to know what you really want. That's the end of dabbling. This is the end of just, well, I'm doing meditation. I don't really know why, but I just do it. It's kind of like a fad. It's like a fashion. And people meditate now, so I just join them. But you have very clear goal, what you're doing. Why am I doing this now? What are you doing it for? Who would you like to be? These are very important questions. Rather than complaining about who you are or who other people are, redefine yourself. Well, who do you want to be then? Choose. And then once you have made your choice, work on it. That means you need to recondition yourself. Recondition your thoughts, recondition your feelings, recondition your actions. So they start to match more and more with the new role that you have chosen, which is hopefully more skillful. Skillful simply means it leads towards benefit and happiness. Unskillful is the opposite, obviously. So playing a skillful role means you choose who you want to be in terms of the result. Where does it get you? What's the outcome? What's the plan? Yeah? So this is full responsibility. You decide who you want to be. Every single moment. Who you are is not just some sort of accident. Just like falling in love is not just some sort of accident. It's a training. It is a skill to love. Like a muscle. Not an accident, not something that, oops, it happened to me. You make it happen. And so if you have a good direction, life unfolds in a way that is beneficial, that is enjoyable. And that's the point of this whole thing, right? Happiness. And to let go of suffering. And to be of service. To lead a life that is fulfilling in any way. Okay, so that's pretty much all that comes to mind for today. Are there any questions?